All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much once again for joining us today. I'm Pooja Sood, and I'll be your host for today's session, which is on AI in pharmacovigilance, what's actually working and what isn't. If you work anywhere near drug safety, you've probably felt the pull between two very different narratives. On one side, the headlines around AI will replace safety teams, machines will take over. On the other, you have the everyday reality, which is the intake volume that keeps climbing, literature review that never stops, and administrative burden that grows faster than your headcount. So, today we are setting the hype aside and looking honestly at where AI is genuinely earning its place in pharmacovigilance, and just as importantly, where it isn't there yet, and where clinical judgment still has to lead. We've also got a live look at these capabilities inside the Cloudbyz platform, so let's get into it. Before we dive in, a few quick housekeeping items so you get the most of today's session. The session is being recorded. If a colleague who couldn't join or you would like to revisit anything later, we'll send the recording to everyone who have registered and we will also post it on our website. All participants are currently on mute to keep the audio clean, but please feel free to use the Q&A panel for any questions along the way. We also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end, and we'll get to as many as we can before the time's up. And if you run into any technical issues, please drop a note in the chat and our team will jump into to help. A recording of today's webinar will be posted on our website and emailed to everyone who registered. You can always visit our website www.cloudbyz.com or reach out to us at info@cloudbyz.com. Now here's what we have in store for you today. So we'll start with a quick introduction about who we are, what Cloudbyz does, and who's joining us today. Then we'll get into the capacity challenge facing pharmacovigilance teams right now and the honest reality of what AI is and isn't doing about it. We'll walk through exactly where the administrative burden lives in PV work, including a close look at literature monitoring, one of the heaviest lifts in the function. We'll bring all of it to life in a live demo inside the Cloudbyz platform, and we'll close with what this shift actually means for PV professionals, followed by a dedicated Q&A session. And in just a moment, you'll meet the team walking you through it. Let's get started. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome once again. Cloudbyz is one of the fastest growing providers of AI-enabled e-clinical solutions natively built on the Salesforce platform. Our platform is 100% cloud native, built for scalability and modularity, so it can flex to your organization's specific needs, whether you are a Fortune 500 leader or an agile startup moving fast to get therapies to market. Our comprehensive suite covers the full clinical spectrum, right from clinical trial management, clinical trial financial management, electronic data capture, electronic trial master file, patient recruitment, and safety and pharmacovigilance. Through our AI Innovation Hub, we embedded advanced intelligence directly into the trial and safety lifecycle, automating complex tasks and sharpening decision making at every stage, which is exactly what today's session is all about. We are ISO 9001 and 27001 certified and fully compliant with FDA 21 CFR Part 11, GCP, and HIPAA. Cloudbyz is also recognized in the Everest Group PEAK metrics as a major contender for both CTMS and EDC. We are headquartered in Chicago with our offices in Toronto and Bengaluru. We are global and we are here around the clock. Now, beyond the core platforms, we've built a family of specialized standalone AI agents, purpose-built for life sciences workflows, spanning clinical operations with a protocol intelligence agent, clinical trial financial management, trial master file automation, and safety and pharmacovigilance, which is exactly where we are headed today. These agents aren't bolted onto disconnected systems after the fact. They are built natively into the platform so the intelligence actually understands the context of your data. Now let's meet the people who are going to walk you through what that looks like in practice. Joining me today are two people who bring very different and equally important vantage points on this topic. First, we have Jay Frederick, our PV platform manager. Jay brings several years of hands-on pharmacovigilance operations experience, leading safety, case processing, project coordination, and cross-functional PV workflows across a range of therapeutic areas at leading global CRO and safety services organization, alongside a clinical research background that gives her a ground-level view of exactly where administrative burden lives in safety work. Jay, wonderful to have you with us. And Archit Pathak, our AI product manager. Archit leads AI initiatives for clinical trials here at Cloudbyz and has spent over 6 years across product and engineering roles building out our Salesforce native eClinical platform. He'll be taking us through today's live demo. Archit, great to have you with us today. And I'm Pooja Sood, your host for today. Feel free to connect with any of us after the session. Our details are on the screen. All right, let's get into it. Jay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. Thank you for being here. So, I want to give you a quick sense of my background. I know Pooja touched on this already, but I think it shapes everything I'm going to share today. So, I spent 5 years as a PV lead before joining Cloudbyz as a pharmacovigilance platform success manager. I'll be honest with you, when I was on the operations side of things, I was not what you would call an AI enthusiast. I didn't use it much. I didn't really understand it. And when people started talking about AI and pharmacovigilance, my first reaction was pretty much the same as a lot of people on this call probably had. Wait, does this mean a bot is going to process all of our cases? So, like, is someone going to program something to just do case processing for us? And I remember sitting with that thought for a while because even if they did, I couldn't figure out how that would actually work. Human oversight is still required. The regulatory expectations don't just go away because you've got an automated system. So I was genuinely curious. I knew I needed to do my own research to understand what AI was actually capable of doing in this space. So that curiosity is actually what I want to talk about today, because I think a lot of people joining this session are sitting where I was sitting a couple of years ago, curious but not yet sure what to make of it. And so I wanted to share what I've learned. So here's where I landed. AI is not replacing pharmacovigilance professionals. What it is doing, it's eliminating the parts of the job that were always going to get in the way of the real work. So that's it. So I'm going to walk you through how I got there. Um, so we're going to stay on this slide, Pooja. When I first started paying attention to the AI conversations in this industry, the coverage was all over the place. You'd see headlines like AI will transform drug safety or automation is reshaping pharmacovigilance. They were written in a way that sounded exciting or alarming, depending on which side of the desk you were sitting on. The problem is that almost all of that coverage was missing something really fundamental about what PV actually is. So, pharmacovigilance, it's not just one job, it's not one task, it's discipline. So, it goes all the way from the moment you receive an adverse event report to signal detection. You have aggregate reporting, benefit risk assessments, and regulatory submissions. That's an enormous amount of ground. And people writing those headlines were treating it like it was all one thing. When someone says AI is replacing PV, I wanted to ask which part, what workflow are we talking about? And because that answer changes everything, when you actually look at where AI is being deployed in production environments, not in a sales demo, but in real operations, what you find is that it's being aimed towards the highest volume, most repetitive, most administrative pieces of the process, which honestly I think is the right call. So I'll show you why. Before I do that, I want to take a second to demystify what AI is actually in this context. I think a lot of the anxiety around it comes from not really knowing what you're dealing with. So when we talk about AI and pharmacovigilance, we're not talking about a thinking machine that understands drug safety the way a clinician does. We're talking about systems trained on large volumes of data, adverse event narratives, case reports, medical literature to recognize patterns. The natural language processing models, the type most commonly used in PV, has seen thousands of AE reports, and we've learned to identify structures. So the patient, the drug, the event. It doesn't reason, it doesn't judge, it just matches patterns. So that distinction matters, right? Because it tells you exactly where these tools are useful and where they're not. Pattern recognition is powerful for structured, repeatable tasks. Pulling data fields from a narrative, flagging duplicates, identifying safety terms in a publication. It is not powerful for clinical judgment, patient-specific context, or regulatory strategies. Those all require a human. So for the rest of the session, we're going to hold this frame, a capable pattern recognition tool applied to the right problems with a human in the loop for everything that matters. So next slide, please. So I want to paint a picture that I know most of you are going to recognize. It's Monday morning. Your inbox has cases that came in over the weekend. Some are from literature, some are HCP reports, some are spontaneous consumer reports. Our few are from partner companies. They're in different formats, where that's a structured E2B, some are PDFs, and some are faxes. Before you can do anything clinically meaningful with any of these cases, before you can make a single judgment call, you have to process them. You have to figure out what you actually have. You have to pull the reportable data. You have to check against your criteria. Is it serious? Is it expedited? Is it a duplicate? What clock is on this? So that's the administrative burden. That's the work that happens before the actual pharmacovigilance starts. So now here's the question I want to sit with you for a second. How much of your day is that? So, because when I was leading PV operations, it was a lot, and I experienced it directly. We had to change the scope of work, we had to add hours, resources, because the intake and processing volume created a real bottleneck. So, that time had to come from somewhere, and it came from the clinical work, the signal work, the things you actually trained for. And that's exactly what AI is being pointed at. So next slide, please. So the PV safety systems are built to manage cases. They're the database and workflow engines, but they don't do the intake work for you. So a case comes in, whether it be a fax, an email, an E2B file, paper form, and a PV professional has to work through it manually inside of the system. That means someone is reading the report and determining whether it meets valid case criteria. We're keying in the data elements, patient demographics, the suspect product, the event description, and a reporter information. They're running a manual duplicate check against what's already in the database. They're assigning the case in a setting um, and setting the follow-up in expedited timelines. They're routing it to the right person or team. So this system is an infrastructure. The human is doing all the work, intake work inside of it. And depending on your volume, how many cases are coming in, how many formats they're arriving in, how many products you're covering, that can consume a significant portion of the day before any clinical review has even started. So this is exactly where AI comes in, and I wanted to be clear about what that actually means in this practice. So nobody is replacing your safety system with a bot. That platform your team knows and works in is still going to be there. What AI does is handles that work that happens before or alongside case entry. So the human doesn't have to start from scratch. So our well-trained NLP models can read a free-form consumer complaint or an HCP narrative and pull out the structured data, the patient, the suspected drug, the event, the seriousness criteria, the reporter, it can run a duplicate check automatically. It can flag expedited timelines based on the case content, and it can pre-populate those fields in your existing system before a human ever touches it. So the PV professional still reviews it. They still confirm if the data is right. They can still make the judgment call on anything ambiguous or complex. That human oversight isn't going to go away, and it shouldn't. But instead of spending your 4 hours keying data from scratch, they're spending that time reviewing what the system surfaced, correcting what's off, and focusing their actual attention on the cases that need you most. That's a different job, and it's a better one. So one thing worth saying here while we're on the topic is any AI-assisted system that touches our PV data needs to be validated. We have the FDA, the EMA, ICH. The expectations around data integrity, audit trails, and system validation don't just go away because a system is automated. In a health authority inspection, the person who has to explain how the AI-assisted workflow handled the data isn't your software vendor, it's you. So these tools become part of your process. Understanding how to audit them and speak to their outputs is becoming a real competency for PV professionals. Next slide, please. So beyond intake, there are a few spots in case processing where automation is making a real difference. We have metric coding. So this is one of the most time-consuming things in PV, and it's one where AI is showing real promise. This model suggests that preferred terms from verbatim descriptions doesn't replace the coder. It gives the coder a starting point. So for high volume operations, that's a real meaningful time saver. We have duplicate detection. So this has been a machine learning use case for a while. We're figuring it out whether you've already received a report about this patient, this event, this reporter. That's pattern recognition, and the machines are built for that. We have narrative drafting, so I'll be careful because I think this is one that still needs to mature. There are tools that will generate a first draft narrative from structured case data. You should absolutely not send that out without review, but as a starting point for straightforward cases, it can be really useful. Just don't over rely on it just yet. And then we have quality checks. So we're missing fields, inconsistent dates, expedited threshold flags. This is honestly the most defensible use case of all. There's no clinical judgment involved. It's a checklist. Machines run checklists faster and more consistently than people do every time. So that pattern across all of these is the same. Automation handles the mechanical parts, the clinical reasoning, the judgment, the benefit risk thinking. That's still ours. So next slide, please. Literature monitoring is one of the most underappreciated burdens in PV. So you have a product scope, you go into the databases, you run your searches, you apply inclusion criteria, you review every article and determine whether it's relevant to your safety profile. Then you do it again on whatever frequency your program requires across multiple products, potentially in multiple languages. And buried somewhere in those results could be a case report that means meets ICSR criteria and needs to be reported. Missing isn't just operational problems, it's a patient safety problem. So you take that process, you apply it to COVID-19 vaccine in 2020 and 2021. Researchers worldwide were publishing daily. Case reports, observational studies, population level analysis. Somewhere in that volume, a PV team had to find, they had to read and assess everything that might be reportable while managing a volume of spontaneous reporting that the industry had never seen before at the same time. Teams were stretched, timelines were tight, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. So that's exactly where AI assisted literature monitoring changes the equation. Instead of manually running these searches and reading every result, an AI assisted tool connects to the databases, runs safe searches by products, measure keywords and safety terms on a defined frequency, applies your inclusion criteria automatically. It flags escalation terms like pregnancy exposure, we have overdose, medication error, and it returns to a curated set of articles ranked by relevancy and confidence. The reviewer sees what needs attention rather than a raw research dump. The PV professional does a clinical review. It makes making the judgment calls on whether an article meets this ICSR criteria, whether it's reportable, serious adverse events, or a SUSAR. AI handles the volume and the research. The clinical determination is going to stay with the humans. Next slide, please. And there's a broader point underneath all of this that I think is worth naming directly. We have capacity. The volume of adverse event reports globally is going up. So we have more drugs on the market, more reportable channels, more real world evidence programs. And at the same time, the pool of qualified PV professionals is not growing at the same rate. People will understand both the regulatory requirements and the clinical context deeply enough to do the complex work well. Those people are hard to find and harder to keep. AI doesn't solve that problem, but it helps manage it. So when automation handles the volume work, the experts you do have can help spend more of their time on the work that actually needs them. That's the argument, not replacement, but smarter use of the people and expertise you already have. So next slide, please. So let me bring this to something practical. If you're a PV professional, what does all this actually mean for you? So I have three things. These aren't abstract. These are things that matter right now. So the first takeaway is that AI is a tool. It's not a threat. Well, only if you understand what it's actually doing. So when I came into Cloudbyz, this was a shift I had to make. I came in thinking AI might mean a bot doing the job. What I actually found was the useful version of AI in PV is much more specific than that. So, and once you understand what it's actually doing, it stops being so scary. A black box is a threat. A tool is something you understand well enough that you can help redirect it, correct, and trust within defined limits. So in practice, that means knowing where the system is handling extraction and classification. That's the mechanical work, the syntax, and knowing where a human judgment is still required. Is this a real signal? Does this case meet expedited criteria? What does this narrative actually say clinically? That's the semantics. That part is still yours. So once you can draw that line for any tool you're using, the anxiety goes away. You're not being replaced, you're being assisted, and that's a real difference. So the second takeaway is that the administrative burden was never the job, it was just the way of it. So I think about this a lot in the context where I spend my career before Cloudbyz. A huge amount of time in PV operations goes into the administrative machinery, the intake, the data entry, the routing, the checklists, and over time, that starts to feel like the job because it's what fills our day. But nobody went into pharmacovigilance to enter data. AI is removing that burden. Um, isn't a threat, it's a correction. It gives people back the time to do what they've actually been trained for. The real question for organizations is whether they redirect that freed up capacity toward higher value work or just use it to run leaner teams. The third takeaway is that value of a PV professional is shifting from throughput to insight. So for a long time, a meaningful part of how PV performance got measured was throughput. Cases per day, time to closure, volume per FTE, those metrics made sense when the job was mostly mechanical. But as automation actually handles more of our mechanical work, throughput stops being the differentiator. What becomes the differentiator is insight, your ability to look at safety data and tell a clinically coherent story about what it means, your ability to run a benefit risk assessment that holds up, your ability to interpret a signal in context and communicate it clearly to someone who isn't a PV expert. And this is especially true in literature monitoring and the complex clinical work. So those skills take years to develop. And if you have them and you sharpen them, you become genuinely valuable in a way that's hard to replicate. You invest in benefit risk methodology and population level safety interpretation. You build your ability to communicate safety findings to clinical, commercial, and executive audiences. The professionals who can translate between PV and the rest of the business are going to define what this field is going to look like moving forward. Next slide, please. So everything I've talked about today, the administrative burden, the bottlenecks, the need to free up PV professionals for the work that actually requires their expertise, that's exactly what drives how we think about building technology at Cloudbyz. The design philosophy starts from one belief. We have technology should remove the administrative friction so PV professionals can actually do pharmacovigilance, not replace them, free them. And so when it comes to literature monitoring specifically, which I think is one of the clearest examples of where the philosophy matters, what we're working towards is a solution that takes the manual search process off of the plate of the PV professionals entirely. So the vision is a platform that connects to literature databases, runs the searches based on your product scope and safety terms on a defined frequency. It applies your inclusion criteria automatically. It brings back a ranked set of results so your reviewer is spending their time on clinical judgment rather than search logistics. Beyond that, what we're aiming for is a system that gets more refined over time as the reviewer provides feedback. So understanding what's relevant to a specific product and scope, not just returning everything that matches a keyword. And when an article does meet the ICSR criteria, the goal is that it flows directly into your safety system with a draft narrative ready for PV professionals to review and finalize, not another manual data entry test. So that's the direction we're working towards, the administrative burden of literature monitoring handled by a platform. The ICSR determination, the clinical judgment, the regulatory accountability is owned by the professional. The goal is never to replace the safety team. It's to give the safety team back their time and point it at the work that actually needs them. So next slide, please. So before I hand things over, let me leave you with three things. I came into this work with a lot of questions. I needed to understand what AI was actually capable of in PV. And once I did the research, I saw that Cloudbyz and others in this space were building. The picture became a lot more clear. What I found and what I hope you're taking away from this session is a much more specific and honestly more useful picture of what the headlines are suggesting. Three things to carry with you is that the AI is a tool, not a threat, but only if you understand what it's actually doing. Know where it handles the mechanical work and keep the judgment for yourself. The administrative burden was never the job. It was just the way of it. AI is removing that work. Removing that work is a correction. It's not a loss. And the value of a PV professional is shifting from throughput to insight, especially in literature monitoring and the complex clinical work. If you have those skills or you build them, you're going to matter more, not less. And PV is not going away. The administrative burden is, and I think that's a good thing. So now, rather than just talk about what it looks like in practice, I want you to see it. I'm going to hand things over to Archie, who will walk you through a live demo.
Hi, everyone. Just a quick reintroduction for those who joined us late. My name is Archit Pathak. I'm a senior product manager over here at Cloudbyz. I take care of the AI Innovation Lab, where we are working on AI solutions which can bridge the gap between the whole black box situation that Jay was talking about and keep things transparent while making the life of everyone easier. Trying to keep compliance in view, everything auditable and traceable, to be precise. Let me just quickly close this. All right. So what we're going to take a look at is a product that we call Evidence IQ. It's a smart agentic literature search platform which helps you not only scan various literature databases. It also ranks them, takes based on the keywords that you have created, based on the products that you have in your system. So the whole construct of this is because literature search is a regulatory obligation with no ceiling. Every product, every database, every week, and pretty much forever. So Evidence IQ is basically an AI layer that does the searching for you, scores everything as I mentioned, and routes only what needs, needs a human review and showcases them. But having said that, it doesn't just showcases what it feels is relevant to your search, but it also lists down everything else. So you have the whole traceability matrix available, and not just what agent feels that is relevant. Right. So getting into the platform, first of all, as you land, you see a dashboard which clearly presents the whole picture of the entire application, how things are performing, what things are currently available, what are the databases and stuff like that. So over here, high level, number of databases, number of saved searches, recent results, things to review. Then you have a quick glimpse on recent activities that are there. Your relevance trends, artifact founds, and of course monitored products that you are currently currently listed on the system, and this keeps on changing based on if there is a recent finding, if there are the relevance and the confidence of the system is higher on a particular product, it keeps on changing dynamically. Now, one thing to notice over here, in the relevance trends, the trend line keeps going up because reviewers are using the system. So basically, every action that you take, maybe if you accept something, you reject a finding, you flag something, you provide a feedback to something, all of that is basically tuning your instance. So basically, your instance starts responding to the way your team uses the platform and less of how agent wants to manage everything. The model eventually gets sharper on your product and not on a generic corpus that is, the database itself. Now, when I say the model gets better, this is where a lot of triggers happen. Now, when I say the model, every instance is dedicated, so there's no actual model training happening at our end. The model gets trained on your use cases, not on the data that you are providing it. So there's no data capture happening at Cloudbyz end. So basically, every system that you use can give different results based on how you're using the results, how you're using the system. Now, this is something that we are currently actively testing with a lot of with a couple of our pilot customers. Where we are trying to check if how accurate the findings are and how different the results show up. Moving forward, so as soon as you come here, the first step is to configure the platform. There's a button you code there, and it opens a configuration wizard. Now, this is where the magic happens. So it's not like you have to go through, you have to have all the databases available. We keep on adding more and more databases as and when they become available. You'll start seeing them over here. By default, the databases related to human trials are visible. So you can choose them, or you can just deactivate one if it is not relevant to you. Let's say you're not in the European market, you can just disable it. You're not tracking it, or just add a couple of more. Now over here, you have your domain packs like veterinary and animal health, cosmetology and dermatology, nutrition and food sciences, and others. Some of them are still work in progress while we've connect to the databases. But as of now, let's say I enable veterinary and animal health, so automatically you'll start seeing the relevant databases over here. Now, what I can do is I can just go ahead and mark Agricola as enabled for veterinary search. Now, moving forward, this is where the structure comes into the picture. Instead of having multiple Excel sheets per customer, let's say if you are responsible to have constant searches for products your customers have, and you have to basically report on a weekly, monthly basis on every product. There's no need to maintain multiple different customer specific sheets or systems. You can just dump in your products over here, tag them to the customers, and it can automatically take all these into consideration and run weekly scans for you. Now, this is where the search fine tuning happens. You select your date range. What is the maximum rolling window for a new literature surveillance? Of course, that also depends on the databases that you have selected. As and when it becomes available in the database, only then it gets visible. Otherwise, the state range is applied on top of that. Now, you can set up your search frequencies daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly as per, this also highlights the GVP Module 6 requirement, which is weekly at least. Then you have literature languages to choose from. As of now, we are currently supporting multiple different languages, and the plan is to add more relevant languages with time. So you can choose English, German, French, Spanish, and the system will take all that into account. Then you have your inclusion criteria, population. As of now, since human and veterinary are available, so you can keep it human only, veterinary only, or just change it to human and animal to include both. You have your ranking results. You have your ranking results where you set your relevance threshold, confidence cutoffs. Now, one key thing to notice over here, there are actually two benchmarking thresholds available. One is relevance, which basically where which basically sets the threshold for identifying the similarity between a literature against the keywords that you have mentioned while searching. And then there's a confidence cutoff. Basically, what this means is the AI will only show anything that is beyond 65% confidence on its own. What you can also do is you can let it to be zero. Let's say if you just want to have everything showcased to you, it will just have a relevance threshold ranking, and then it will just turn off the confidence cutoff. Or you can just take it higher, depending on how confident you feel on the agentic search. Then you have auto-create cases for valid ICSRs and meta versionings and other settings. Now, these are all configurable based on how you set this up. Your agentic search happens. Next, as we move on, this is where the actual search happens. So you provide your keyword. I've just taken some sample over here. Uh, uh, One product and a couple of additional keywords. It will show you high level what all products are active in the system, what databases are present, and what are the other filter criteria. You can go back and edit the rule or just run a simple agentic scan. While it runs, it goes through all these databases, tries to do the matching and the scoring, and it will go ahead and present you all the different artifacts that it has found in different ways. Now, what happens here are, if you really see, the two scores, as we mentioned, relevance is about the product that we have, and confidence is how sure the agent is, given what it could actually read in the artifact. For example, a borderline paper with a full text can basically outrank a perfect keyword match that maybe just has an abstract, but there's no additional context that it could find. Maybe a PDF or the full text version is not readable. That distinction is what makes the output triageable. Second is, if you see over here the button, there are multiple buttons that you can see. For example, a couple of them with the maximum confidence are already selected, but you can go ahead and deselect them based on what you find is more applicable. And then you can view this. So it will take you to the dedicated page where it will give you all the AI signals based on which it is ranking it. So now if an inspector comes and says, what's the logic behind it? This is how it is ranking it. Then you see a high level abstract, matching terms, and all the citations that the literature has. On the right hand side, it will give you everything that it used to rank this particular artifact. What you can do is, if there is a PDF available, you can view that. It will take you to that PDF directly. It will find it and open it for you. Or you can also, download the PDF or open it at source. So it will take you to the website and you can actually read the actual content over there. Now, this is the most important aspect of the platform that I was talking about, where you actually help the agent understand how you use the system. So if you select it, it gets logged. If you can send it for review. Let's say if you find something you have any concerns about it, you want it to be reviewed, you can initiate a review cycle and send it to others for quick review. And then the feedback itself. So you can just provide a feedback, is whether it is highly relevant, off topic, metadata only, strong safety signal, or just give a general note and send and tune the model. So now this goes and sits within your instance, and your dedicated agent basically starts learning from these patterns that you provided. What you can do is also exclude it. Let's say if I mark it excluded, it will just go ahead and remove this from the search. Now, if I go back to the saved signals, it also highlights it over here. I can undo it and it comes back. Now, what I can do is, once I've selected a couple of them, let me just mark one more. Okay, 3. Okay, so what I can do is I can push to PV. This is where the connected system and the integrations come into picture. So before I proceed further, let me show you the integration page. So you can come over here and connect this platform to any of your existing PV systems. By default, the system comes connected with our Cloudbyz PV application, where it can automatically, where it automatically pulls the field mapping, or you can go ahead and reconfigure the mapping as well. So basically, when it creates a case, it can also push it to to the PV system that you maintain. Coming back over here, I've selected the 3. Let me just push it to PV. Now, what it does is it pulls the case information from the from Cloudbyz PV itself, and has everything pre-filled for you. You can review it, go on checking your suspect drugs, your concomitant history and medications, manufacturer report, and then a narrative that the system has already generated from the artifacts that you selected. Right now, if you don't like it, you can just go ahead and edit it over here. I can make any changes, or I can just go ahead and regenerate this. Let's say if I go back and select a couple of others. Okay, let me just go back. I remove this. I come to the narrative. Now, if you see the artifact is gone, I come back to the narrative. I can just hit regenerate. It goes through the current artifacts and regenerates the narrative for you. If you like it, you can, first one option is you can preview the CAMS version, or print it, save it, share it, or just go ahead and submit for review. Now, what happens is when you submit for review, it goes to the system, pushes it to Cloudbyz PV, and creates a case for you, gets that case ID for you over here, so that you can either go and look for that case, file it, or take your next steps. So that's basically what we are trying to, what I had to show over here. As you know, just to cover it quickly in a glimpse, the system is basically database agnostics. It uses dual scoring. All the rankings are very straightforward, explainable. You can export all the logs, reviews, every run that has happened, and everything that gets pushed onto the next system or gets acted upon is human controlled. So agent basically doesn't take any decision on your behalf unless you manually approve it. So straight through to an right from searching it straight through to an to be ready case in your safety system, or Cloudbyz PV itself. If you need, if you're interested in taking a look at how this integrates with the Cloudbyz PV system, or how the Cloudbyz PV system itself works, feel free to reach out to us, and we would love to show you around. That's it from my end. Pooja, back to you.
Thank you so much, Archit, and thank you, Jay. While we'll take a moment to have our audience put in their questions. One of the questions that actually just came up was, what skills should PV professionals be developing right now? Jay, would you want to pick this question?
Yeah, of course. So I would say that you need to know what your AI tools are actually doing and like where they can go wrong. So regulatory literacy around AI validation. So because health authorities are going to start asking harder questions about AI assisted workflows, and the clinical and strategic skills that are hardest to automate. So the signal interpretation, the benefit risk modeling, and the safety communication. That last one is where your long-term value is going. So you just want to make sure that you're ready for those questions during any audits and inspections.
Thank you so much. I believe there were some hands raised during the session. Well, this is the time. If you could just drop in your question, the panelists here. Okay, we have a question from Paul. Yeah, so Archit, probably you want to pick this up. So for AI capabilities, is this going to be a separate license?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a separate platform altogether, which is also, I'm sorry, there's a little bit of background noise. So yes, there will be some sort of licenses available, but at this stage we are, initiating pilot users for, provisions where we want to work with you and, figure out what works best. So feel free to reach out to us, and we can definitely have further discussions on how we can work together. And
Okay. Paul, we'll reach out to you separately on an email, just to set up a meeting, just to explore this further. Archit, there's another question. I believe you could answer this. So the tool, does it work with other PV databases? You had mentioned that it works via API or E2B import. I think you're just looking for confirmation on that.
Absolutely. So as I was showing the integration page, the system will have the capability to integrate with pretty much most of the prominent PV systems. However, as of now, the system is built for Cloudbyz PV, and that integration will come out of the box with just point and click tools. And if you have the PV system, it will automatically integrate stuff of the mapping. For the others, at this stage, the integration is possible, so we can work with you to integrate the solution with your application. But slowly, within some time, we will have integration connectors available, those made available on the platform itself.
Okay. All right. So I understand that. Judy, just in case if you would want to have like a one-on-one call just to kind of go through it, we can definitely reach out to you and we can arrange a call. Another question. So, what about smaller organizations? So there's a lot of discussion around affordability, since AI is in picture, people are working on existing platforms. They want to know, like, just as part of enabling their organizations for AI, how affordable is it to become an AI-enabled organization? Is it something that smaller organizations can afford? Archit, I don't know if you want to take up this question. What about smaller organizations that can't afford, say, enterprise AI tools?
Well, yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, I would let Jay, if you have any thoughts, I would let you go first, and then I can talk about the that side of it.
Yeah, of course. So I would just say like the cloud-based models, it's changing a lot right now. So you don't need an on-premise like build to get these benefits. I think like a lot of the SaaS platforms have made a lot of this accessible to smaller teams. So I think that's just the bigger barrier. And just having that change management and just making people more comfortable with the workflow shift.
Archit, do you want to add any additional pointers here?
Yes, absolutely. So, in terms of affordability, see, the whole context comes down to how much you want to integrate AI. I would say, the best is to start early, start small, and play around with what works, what doesn't. And I believe, this. Uh, the smaller organizations where affordability is a matter are are the ones who would gain the most, because that's where AI can automate most of the tasks which require a lot of manpower, and enable, because of course when the organization is smaller, you have smaller team, lesser hands on job. So that's where AI can actually automate a lot of those works which require multiple people or multiple longer hours, and enable your team to do more within the same time. So I believe that's actually contrary to what the organizations and industry think, that AI is very expensive for us. There's always a workaround, and we would love to, if anybody from the participants, if this is a question coming from you, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to discuss how we can help you get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Archit. And yeah, I mean, just as a follow-up, say if you want a one-on-one session with the speakers, or say you want to, have a discussion in detail, get a detailed demo, just reach out to us. You can visit our website. You could also drop in a email to us. Well, we still have 10 minutes to go, so if there are any more questions, do let us know. There's one more that has come to us. So how do we validate AI output when the model is a black box? Jed, would you want to take up this question?
So I would say I will let Archie take this question as far as how you validate AI.
So I'm
Archit,
not sure what
so the
you
question
read.
is,
Yeah,
yeah, so the
yeah,
question
good.
is, how do we validate AI output when the model is a black box?
Well,
like
yeah,
documentation,
yeah,
and just making sure that we're testing it against like the known inputs and outputs, a lot of like UAT testing and documentation to make sure that we're making following the regulatory expectations.
yeah. And this is a question that had been, I believe, this is where most of the compliance, regulatory authorities have already looked into this. Most of the models, which are API based, where you don't, where in case you're not using a local model, which is hosted. So those kind of scenarios and what context is given to the AI, how it generates the response. There's a whole list of compliances that are possible and needed, already published by FDA, EMA, and almost all the other regulatory bodies. So I believe in that sense, what we are following are, most of the LLMs that we are using in the back end are supported via a genuine BA, a contract in place, and all the inputs and outputs are traceable. So you actually get to see what context or what content was fed to the AI and what it generated. And as a result, to meet this exact, get rid of this whole black box scenario, is why we brought in the whole scope where every citation or every thesis or scoring that the AI shows you on the screen, it also gives you a brief context of why it thinks it is relevant, right? So that itself makes it traceable. Secondly, in terms of whether a keyword was a match, whether there was more genuine information apart from the keyword as well. So there are multiple level of reasoning and evaluation going on per artifact every time it is searched. So all of that combined together is how we are trying to remove that whole black box situation. I would also suggest to say that currently, as I mentioned, since we are working with our pilot customers to evaluate the system, so we are not just trying to benchmark it based on what we know or what we understand of the system, but also to evaluate how the industry would actually respond to something like this. Because as I mentioned, unlike the other systems where this most of the solution providers are focused on databases, proprietary content, we are trying to make it database agnostic and make it more workflow driven. Connecting to multiple different databases. So that's where if you already have or possess the APIs or the keys, or maybe you have already subscribed to a couple of databases, you can bring those in as well to this platform. So these are all different steps and measures that we are taking while building this solution, so that every response is as transparent as possible. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Archit and Jay. Okay, so I don't think we have more questions. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure having you all here. A huge thank you to Jay for such an honest, grounded look at where AI is actually earning its place in PV, and to Archit for bringing it to life in the demo. If there's one thing to take away from today, it's this. The administrative burden in pharmacovigilance is real, it's costly, and it's addressable right now without asking anyone to hand clinical judgment over to a machine. If you would like to see this applied to your own PV workflows or just want to have a conversation, reach out to us at info@cloudbyz.com or visit cloudbyz.com to book a personalized demo with our team. The recording of today's session will be on its way to your inbox shortly. Keep an eye tomorrow. Please share it with anyone in your team who would find it useful. On behalf of Jay, Archit, and the entire Cloudbyz team, thank you so much. Take care, and I hope to see you at our next session next month. Have a good day and good evening ahead.